guys, it's Stacy. Welcome to my channel. Whether you're a returning viewer or a new, yay, I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm excited and a bit nervous, can you tell? And a little bit scared to be making a card with you from start to finish. I recorded, edited, and did this voiceover for mostly the most part by myself. And I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm figuring out along the way. But my lovely husband made the intro and outro for me. Good job, honey. Yay! Anyways, let's get to the card making. Today, I cut a card panel using a stitched arch die. I believe that die is like 4 by 5 1/4, so just 1/4 inch smaller than an A2 size card. And then I took a pre-scored card base, an A2 size one, and a top folding card, and I actually let the die overhang a little bit over the score line so that it would create a shaped card. And ran it through the die cutting machine, and you guys saw that on the video there. And I set that aside. I'm using a penny black stamp called Snowy, and I stamped that in Memento London Fog ink since we're going to be doing some Copic coloring today. I stamped that on Nina Solder White 80-pound cardstock, and so I'm cheap. I prefer to spend my money on stamps, markers, and coffee even. So let's make our own masking paper. I used regular old copy paper, stamped Snowy, and I'm fussy cutting him. I'm using some EK Success scissors. I know. Who wants to fussy cut, right? I don't mind it. I don't mind fussy cutting. Simple images, and it really can make your card have a wow factor, especially if you're creating a scene. And today we're going to be doing a little bit of that, but we're not going to be overlaying stamps. So you don't have to be really precise on your fussy cutting. You can definitely go back and correct some of the things with either ink or Copic markers if you're using markers to correct in a little area. So it would be over when you're masking. If you want to cut on the black line, but you see the pom-pom that I'm cutting around right now, if you're because you could see I was struggling because we don't know where the coloring's going to be. It's not a solid line. Just cut and leave a little bit of space around it, because you can always go back with your markers, or you'll see when I mask where there was a little bit of I believe it didn't cover up part, but that's okay. You know, you work with it, you make it work. So now I'm going to be taking some Zig 2-way glue, and we're going to be putting that on the back. And here in just a sec, I think I zoom in so you guys can see a little bit closer. There we go. And so this is a 2-way glue. It is sticky if you put it down while the glue is wet and you adhere it to your project, it'll be permanent. If you let it dry, it will actually become repositionable. So now I'm just taking my finger so I could smooth it out and push it to the edges so that it'll actually adhere on the edges, because we're going to be doing some ink blending. And that way there's a good solid, it's attached at the edges, so when you blend over it, you don't pull up on it. We're going to be using Copics to color with today. In the BV, R, G, and W families. I believe I used BV 000, BV 00. There's BV 11, BV 01 for the snowman and snow. And I believe I used R20, R21, and R22 for the scarf and hat. G21, G24, and G85 for the hat, and WO, WO1, W4, and W6 for the buttons and nose. I'll try to list everything down below. So right now I'm going in and shading with my darkest color. I like to start with the darkest and then I work out to the lightest. And when I was coloring this in, I realized what I had done was I went a little too far out with my shading, but it all works out, guys. I know it's purple. I know I filled a lot of that white space in, but it's going to appear white. So I just work back and forth. I start from my lightest, start from my darkest, I go to my lightest, and then I work in reverse. Then I go to my mid-tone and my darkest, and I deepen up, because sometimes, especially when you're working with like the double zeros, the triple zeros, they can go back and lighten up your darkest color, and if you go back over it, it will darken up a bit. So since the coloring is going to take a little bit, let me tell you how I got into card making. My mother-in-law, she sent home a bag of goodies that had cardstock, stickers, some embellishments, and tiny paper trimmer. This little paper trimmer. And she sent it home for my daughter. Well, my daughter didn't take much interest in it, but I did. My mother-in-law had the original Cricut, and it was pretty neat. I was in awe of what that could do, and layering and all the things she did with it. She did a lot of paper piecing, as well as use stickers and embellishments in her card making. Well, then I started watching YouTube. You know, Jennifer Maguire and Stamp TV with Gina K, a couple of the OGs. I was in awe of their creations. Well, of course I had to look on Craigslist. This is back in the day when Craigslist was a thing, more so than Facebook Marketplace. So then I found a large lot on Craigslist. It had a bunch of stamps, paper punches, embellishments, stickers, etc. Oh, and we must not forget, ooh la la, it had a heat tool and embossing powder. Well, you know the magic of the first time you heat emboss, right? It's the gateway down the rabbit hole to card making, and the rest is history. Now I'm a card maker, crocheter, sewer, and let's face it, borderline craft hoarder. But let's not tell my husband that borderline hoarder part, okay? So that's a little bit about me. Here I'm going back and I'm coloring in this scarf, and my markers were really juicy because I had just re-inked them. So as you could see, when I went back, it really washed out those deep tones, the darker tones. I probably would have been better off to let it dry so I could have seen where it was actually at, because when the paper's wet, everything looks darker. It is going to kind of blend everything together, make it look washed out, but as it dries, those will come back. And then, so I'm letting that dry. I got smart. I'm gonna let it dry a little bit. And then I'm going to work on this pom-pom here. And the pom-pom, I turn my cardstock. Don't be afraid to turn your cardstock so you can get your flicking motions. I think I stopped doing that because I realized what I'm doing is coloring for a camera so that you could see. And it's a little bit different because you've got this straight down angle and you're trying to make it to where you guys can see what I'm doing. It's not the best. Hey, I'm learning here, okay? But I'm working with it. And I'm going to work on filling in, the voiceover, guys. This is all new to me. Hopefully it's not going to be horrible. I'm going back to that scarf, and you're going to see me pause. I don't know how much of a pause is going to show. Do you see that? It's because I went in with my mid-tone. I didn't go in with my light tone. And, I said a few words I probably should have. And I said, well, I'm just going to keep going with it. sometimes that happens. Just go with it. Keep going. Don't give up on your project. I mean, I still think it came out cute. There's enough definition in the shading, and I'm no pro. I learned how to color, let's face it, I learned from YouTube with the Copic markers. I've colored with colored pencils. I used to, when I was younger, do pencil sketch line drawings, and I was actually pretty good back in the day. Don't ask me to do it now. My stuff would look horrid, but I took a lot of art classes in high school, and coloring was something that I was never enjoyed because I drew with pencils. And so coloring is like a whole different ball game. When you're using pencils, it's just grayscale. Markers, colored pencils, they're really neat, but it takes a lot more thought on how you're going to make the colors work together, etc., you know? So, but I love using markers. I love using colored pencils now. It's a lot of fun, but I'm no pro. My shadows aren't always going to be in the right places. And in reality, if you really look at an image and the light's hitting it from one side, yeah, it's going to have, let's say the light is coming from your right-hand side. Of course, the shadow is going to be on the left, but there can be some shadowing depending on what it is on that right-hand side too. How much of, whether it's sunlight, whether you're out in nature and you've got a tree, or you've got clouds in the sky. So just go with whatever feels good. Enjoy the process, have fun, and that's what I do. So if you're here looking for somebody who's going to be completely accurate, who's going to have realism, that's not me. Some of my stuff I really try for that, but I just really try to have fun and enjoy the process. And I'm hoping that you come to my channel, you see that, you get inspired, maybe you learn a few things, maybe you learn how not to do things, right? So, you know, and we have a good time. Or maybe you even are bored and this woman is just rambling on and she's boring, and it helps you go to sleep. Who knows? So, you know, this is a lot of airtime to fill. So if I ramble, I'm sorry. I really tried to speed things up. I am learning here what to cut out, what not to cut out. And I'm just going to work on my project, and we're going to talk. And some of it's going to be about the card, some of it's not. And there may even just be me sitting quiet. As I learn and get a little bit better with the editing software and what to cut, what not to cut, I will probably add some music in. Right here, I decided I needed to go in and make the snowman have some cheeks. So that's an R00. Here's the green family we talked about, G21, G24, and G85. Because those reds, the R family, are, to me, they're pinky, kind of peachy. They're not super red. And I wanted the greens not to be that bright Kelly green. I wanted it to be more of a subdued, like olive green, to go with it, because I didn't want it to, I wanted it to still kind of be in that warmer area. And I don't know if that's technically warm pinks or the R family or not. Somebody can correct me. And I'm going in and I'm coloring and I'm realizing, oh, wait a minute, I didn't give the hat some shape. But you'll see me. I go right there in the middle and I create this weird indent. And I really should have changed that up a little bit. But I make it work. I go back in. You'll see I'll lighten it up with the lightest G marker, because it will lift Copics a little bit. And then I'm going back in and darkening it back up and trying to add some shadows in there. And like I said, it's not realism. It's just going to give it some shape and character. And sometimes I'm more successful than others, and other times, and I'm sure you guys are too. So, and I like to leave, for myself, I like to try to leave a little bit of an edge from my darkest color. And so that I have a bit of a highlight on the edge to make something like rounded, or just, I think it gives it a little bit more character. It may not be accurate, but I think it does. And I took, there's that mask we made, okay? that mask, and I rubbed it on my arm a couple of times. You can put it on your hand, you can put it on your pants, because you don't want it to be full strength sticky, even that's repositionable. It is copy paper, so it can stay on your project and actually lift some of it up. But if you do it enough, it won't do that. Here, I thought I had a hillside, you know, the Lawn Fawn hillside or an MFT hillside stencil. I didn't. I used my Lawn Fawn hillside stitch borders, and I made my own stencil. That's cardstock from the back of a 12 by 12 paper pad, and I just cut it, and I'm going to rotate it. The downside is you can't totally see through it, but even with your Mylar frosted ones, you can see through it, but you can't completely see, so you're going to have to lift it and look anyway. So that's what I'm doing here, and I want to get some darkness and shape underneath his little rounded bottom, and I'm going to mask that off. And the ink that I'm using here, Simon Says Stamp. It is, I believe it's velvet, like I'm looking at my list here, guys. You can't see me, and so like I said, this is gonna not be perfect, right? But we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this together. This is Simon Says Stamp, and I'll list everything down below. This is Velvet Orchid. It's not their newest ink line. I think they have like their positively saturated inks. This is their ones prior to that, and I don't know if they're still available, but that's what that is. I really love purples and winter cards. What's your favorite color? What do you like? Do you like blues? Do you like teals? Do you like grays? Do you like reds, greens? Do you like more traditional colors? I love using purple and lavenders for winter snow scenes. A lot of times I do trees with it. Tell me what you like. What do you use? Right now I'm using the Lawn Fawn. This is their Snowflake background stencil, and it's a 2-piece stencil, and it's, I believe, meant to layer, but you can use this however you want. So I'm just taking the snowflakes, I'm taking the size I want, I'm shifting it, and since I can see through this stencil, I can put the snowflakes where I want to be on the scene, and then I'm using Post-it notes to mask off any areas where I don't trust myself to not get ink. And then I'm just blending it through. There we go. And I'm making some of the snowflakes go behind the snowman. And I should have done a few in front, but I didn't, because it'll give your scene more realism if you have some going over the top of it. Just be careful where you place them, because you don't want a huge snowflake right in the center of its face covering up. You know, that's where character comes from. But if that's where you want it, put it there too. It's your creation. And so I'm just moving it around. And I also took, which I didn't say, I took that hillside border I made, and I kind of moved it around because I wanted the snow to have some depth, like there's peaks and valleys in it. And then when we're done here, I'll go back and I'll add shading with a Copic marker under the little snowman, the little snow person. It's wearing pink, so it could be a girl, it could be a boy. It's a snow people. And here's the magic when you pull off that mask. And I was using my pokey tool, and it was kind of digging into the cardstock, so I switched to my scissors because it has that sharp, nice little tip. And isn't it cute? Look at it, just comes to life there. But wait, we're not done. Now I'm going to go in and add some shadowing underneath the snowman so it looks like it's actually grounded in that scene. And I'm just using those same BV markers. I believe I started with the lighter one, then went to darker, and that to kind of map it out. And then just went back over. Your shadows typically, like I said, I don't do realism, but I try a little bit. Shadows are typically darker closest to your image right underneath it, and then they get lighter as they go further out. So that's what I'm trying to do there a little bit. You tell me whether or not that was successful. I'm using what ink's left on my blending brush. This is a Hero Arts blending brush. Use whatever you've got, anything. And I went and I added a little bit more around the bottom where the snow was, so it wasn't so stark white. And I'm sorry I'm off camera here. Guys, you really got to put thought process in. I'm telling you, these YouTubers that make these videos and they make it look so seamless, it's a lot of thought and process going in, because you're not just crafting for yourself, you're having to think about that camera. And so I used an old sentiment. It's an old Stampendous stamp set. It is called Winter Trees. And I took that sentiment and lined it up. And I'm just using that same ink I used to blend the background. And I'm stamping it a few times so that it darkens it. But use what you got. Put whatever you want. If you don't have a sentiment there, that's okay too. Maybe you want to make it not a Christmas or season's greetings. Maybe you want to make it a birthday card. Maybe you just want to make it just because. However you want, it's your creation. And so I'm taking that card base I made and I applied the glue to the base itself and not the card panel, the front card panel, because it does overhang the back of it a little bit. And I'm showing you there, it does stand up. And I used art glitter glue to do that. Now we're going to make this sparkle. We're going to sparkle this up. It's Christmas, right? It's magic. What card doesn't need some bling or sparkle? And so I'm masking off Snowy there, and I'm masking off the greeting as I go in. And I'm using this Dr. P.H. Martin. It's iridescent silver. I believe it's ink. And I'm just putting a little bit down on my craft mat. You're going to see me, it's look like I'm putting a ton, but I'm not. It's clogged. I have to unclog it almost every time I use it. And I'm just spraying a little bit of water, thinning it out. That's a Royal and Langnickel fan brush. And I'm splatting it. I'm, doing the thing. And I don't know if I really like that. Use whatever paintbrush you got. I typically use a watercolor brush. And I don't know if it's me. I don't know if there's a learning curve to the fan brush. It's probably user error. If anybody can make user error on a splatter, that would be me. So I removed the mask because I did want there to be some splatter and sparkle on top of the snow person there. And on the sentiment as well, but I wanted it to be more controlled because, like I said, I didn't want to end up with a big splat in its face. I didn't want to, so I did add a little bit more. And those are Trinity Stamps Unicorn Tears. What a name, right? Unicorn Tears. I mean, the magical unicorns are so pretty. So let's place these on here. Tell me, do you guys struggle as much as I do with placing rhinestones and embellishments? I mean, we're supposed to place them, they say, do it in odd numbers. It's more pleasing to the eyes. Do it in thirds. I think I ended up with an even number, but there's I usually do 5. And you'll see, look, there's 7 there, right? Well, I got to go make it even and add an 8th one, I think. But I still think it came out really pretty. I still like it. And it's so sparkly and magical for Christmas. So we're placing those, And we're almost done, guys. And I want to thank you so much for going through this journey with me. Bear with me. I have fixed the glare in the background there. I got that fixed. I will get better. And I'm going to shoot for doing this once a week. Thanks for being here. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.